What's up, Guardians? Profane here. Thanks for checking out the video. It's been a bit since we took a look at a Hunter build. We got a little fixated on Titans with the new Storm's Keep aspect, but today we're jumping back into our capes and we're checking out an incredible new arc build that will quite literally make you indestructible. So if you're in need of a strong and reliable arc build to solo content like Lost Sectors, dungeons, and other in-game content, then the best option that you've got is building around the Gifted Conviction. And with the current variant of this build, you will feel like a Titan, tanking crazy levels of damage. The Gifted Conviction provides hunters with a bonus towards survival with its Gift of Certainty intrinsic trait. When you apply Jolt onto a nearby enemy, you will gain bonus damage resistance. The amount of bonus resistance that you gain will be based on how many enemies that you've jolted. Jolting one enemy will provide a 25% bonus. Jolting two enemies will take that up to 40%. And by jolting 3 enemies, you will receive the maximum of 50% bonus damage resistance. This will be triggered off of any jolted enemy that's within 15 meters. This bonus will last for 10 seconds, with additional applications of Jolt refreshing its cooldown. The bonus resistance provided by the Gifted Conviction can be stacked alongside resistance bonuses like Amplified, Spark of Resistance, and Overshields. The different sources of resistance aren't going to be added together, but they're going to be multiplied. So assuming that you're at 100 resilience with your armor, which gives you a constant 30% reduction to incoming damage, you get into combat and you get close to enemies, you hit them with Jolt and get amplified in the process, and you're going to trigger 3 separate resistance bonuses between Amplified, Spark of Resistance, and Gifted Conviction, giving you a grand total of 77.7% resistance to all incoming damage, which is going to help us endure some of the most brutal engagements, and that's before we add in any other sources of resistance. The second benefit of the Gifted Conviction is that when you perform Tempest strikes and Ascensions, you're going to release 3 arc projectiles. These are going to bounce around and detonate, dealing a base amount of 200 points of damage to any close by enemy. These projectiles jolt enemies, so if they're not already jolted by one of the abilities, then they're going to get jolted by the projectiles. We are using the combination of both of these aspects to be able to maximize on our ability to sustain Gifted Conviction's resistance bonuses. An additional benefit in running Tempest Strike is that it grants 1 extra bolt charge stack every time a jolted enemy is defeated. Enemies will become jolted when we perform Tempest Strikes, and after we come out of our Tempest Strike, we will gain an additional 75% bonus in resistance, and that's going to last for 4 seconds. With Ascension equipped, we have a means of instantly triggering Amplified, along with its resistance bonus, and just as Tempest Strike does, this will jolt all enemies that are within range. We are using the combination of Gambler's Dodge and Combination Blow, which is going to create more energy to share between our abilities, allowing us to perform Tempest Strike and Ascensions in succession. When it comes to our choice of fragments, we are going with Spark of Resistance, as we've already pointed out, and that's going to give us a 25% bonus in damage resistance whenever we're surrounded. But we're also using Spark of Ions, along with Spark of Discharge. This combination will provide additional stacks of bolt charges. It's going to grant us with Ionic Traces whenever we defeat jolted and blinded enemies, and when we defeat enemies with bolt charges. And arc weapons will now be able to create Ionic Traces on their own, so we'll be able to quickly build up and set off those powerful bolt charges, which is going to contribute greatly to this build's improved damage output. Ionic Traces provide us with additional class ability, melee, and grenade energy, so we'll be able to easily rotate through all of our abilities while continuously recharging all of them. Spark of Focus will give us another source of regenerating our class ability, and this will happen as we're running, which works out great for us since we have to get a running start to activate Tempest Strike. With the right combination of armor mods, we could help out this ability regeneration even further. Armor mods like Focusing Strike, Distribution, Invigoration, and Absolution will really come in handy with this build. And the last fragment that we're using is Spark of Feedback, which is going to increase our outgoing melee damage by 75%, and that will get applied to Tempest Strike, but this is only going to happen after we've taken melee damage. Now that we've addressed our class tree options, let's go ahead and switch gears and take a look at our artifact. There's quite a few new artifact mods that will play right into the use of Jolt, giving us opportunities to increase our crowd control efficiency, giving us even more damage resistance, and giving us more damage output. Bolt charges have become an extremely powerful part of running arc-centric builds. With the Flashover artifact mod, these are going to deal 150% extra damage, improving our efficiency at handling large groups of enemies and single high-value targets. The Dielectric mod will provide similar benefits as Tempest Strike, granting 1 extra bolt charge with each jolted or blinded enemy that we defeat. And with the Photonic Flare mod equipped, we'll create blinding explosions whenever we defeat exhausted and severed enemies. Exhausted and severed enemies deal 40% less damage, which will make our 77% damage resistance bonus feel a lot stronger. When champions are present, there's one artifact mod in particular that you really need to make sure that you equip, and that is Defibrillating Blast. This will give us a full stack of bolt charges whenever champions are stunned. A bolt charge will be triggered onto those champions, and it's going to jolt all nearby enemies. And in that process, we will gain a small amount of health back, which is an amazing benefit to have when running an Arc subclass, a class that's not known for standout health regen. One of the biggest standout additions to this build has been the Limit Break artifact mod. This will give us a 30% bonus in super damage whenever we have Amplified active. With this build being more oriented around survival, that 30% increased damage will really come in handy to be able to down high value targets and bosses faster. We've also got a few new mods that will bring a lot of added benefits whenever using trace rifles. We've got Medic Beam and Harsh Refraction active, which will go great whenever using weapons like the Warlord's Spear, the Unsworn, the Cold Heart, or the Microcosm. We'll provide ourselves with an additional source of health recovery with Beam Medic, and we'll give these trace rifles extra damage with Harsh Refraction, with legendary trace rifles receiving a 50% bonus in damage, and exotic trace rifles receiving a 30%. We just have to debuff those enemies with a matching energy type. Because of the Nobel artifact mod, I do find it extremely easy to run a double special loadout right now, as long as you've got a glaive equipped. The Edge of Concurrence or the Rake Angel would be some really powerful options right now, and they'd provide us with a ton of special ammo, which would help us keep those trace rifles, fusion rifles, grenade launchers, or rocket sidearms stocked up on ammo. We could take our improved survival to the extreme by adding in Hold the Line and Heavy Ordnance Regeneration. This would give us damage resistance and health regeneration whenever defeating enemies with glaives, heavy machine guns, and rocket launchers. Because of heavy ordnance, we would also gain bonus damage resistance, along with extra melee and grenade energy. There's a lot of powerful exotic weapons outside of what we've already mentioned that would give us a lot of additional benefits. The Delicate Tomb was recently updated, so it's going to be a great option to create extra ionic traces and deal out considerable damage. And if we swapped out Heavy Ordnance Regeneration and used Particle Reconstruction, we could give the Delicate Tomb and other fusion rifles a 15% bonus in damage whenever dealing sustained damage onto a single target. Because of these mod options, the Queenbreaker, Thunderlord, and Grand Overture are going to be 3 standout options when it comes to heavy weapons. Just about any arc weapon that has the ability to trigger Jolt or Blind, whether it be legendary or exotic, will be extremely beneficial for us. So when it comes to legendary weapons, keep an eye out for Jolting Feedback and Volt Shot. Unrelenting would also be a great trait to give us improved health regeneration. Between our abilities and the projectiles from Gifted Conviction, we're pretty much free to run any weapon loadout that suits the active modifiers and surges. But with survivability in mind, we could use the Risk Runner or Ergo Sum to increase our durability. This way we'd be able to maintain the benefits of an Overshield that would reduce incoming arc damage by 50%, stacking on top of all the other resistance bonuses that we're getting. Overall, it's not an ultimate damage build like you'd have with the Star Eaters, but the big difference is your ability to stay alive, and when running solo content, that's gotta be the first priority. And with the Gifted Conviction, you're getting a ton of damage resistance, ton of improved crowd control capabilities, along with a nice boost to super and weapon damage. So if you've been looking for a good hunter build in Heresy, look no further than this current variant of the Gifted Conviction. With that, we have come to an end of today's build video. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the Gifted Conviction, Arc Hunters, and all the changes that Heresy has brought. Let us know your thoughts down below. If you need help getting this build set up for yourself, then be sure to check out my Mobalytics and Dim link, which are down in the description. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated, and both really do help support the channel. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.